Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here at Trumful Reads, and in this video we're going to be doing another literature walk, or no, I think I've been calling them literary walks, I believe. Everyone seemed to really enjoy some of the outdoor nature videos that I did a week or two with my friend Tim. We had a blast doing them, and I just think they're really fun, especially when I have kind of like access to kind of like a lot of wilderness and stuff where I live. It's definitely something I kind of want to make more of a staple on my channel now, especially since everyone seemed to really like and enjoy those kinds of videos where basically I just kind of talk about books and literature stuff while I'm just like kind of walking in the woods or whatever it happens to be. And I'll try and change up the scenery, especially once things get a little bit nicer, because like right now we're in a nice infamous season called mud season here in northern Maine, where basically the snow is finally melting, you know. Hip hip hooray. It's like April. It's Easter Sunday in April, like what, April 20th or something like that, or 21st. Yeah, this is basically the snow starting to melt, and then a lot of like our yards and stuff basically look like this. Just nice slushy mud stuff everywhere. However, down like actually in the woods, in the wood line and everything, with the tree cover and everything, it's actually still pretty deep snow. I'm not wearing snowshoes because like on the lawn, like I said, where there's like, you know, half an inch of snow or no snow at all, felt kind of silly. But of course, now that I'm actually in the woods and everything, yeah, there's some spots where I probably could definitely use the snowshoes. But yeah, I do promise I have some pairs of snowshoes. I just, you know, just don't wear them like right now because they're, I don't know. Anyways, like I said, I'm just going to try and keep these kind of videos, kind of do them on a more regular basis. Hopefully, fingers crossed, maybe like, I don't know, once a week, something like that. Of course, I say that. I had a 3-day weekend. Let's see, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it rained all day Saturday and Friday. So I'm going to try and get a couple of videos in today on Easter Sunday. So yeah, this topic, or the topic of this literary walk, is going to be comedic nonfiction, or humorous nonfiction. And I think nonfiction as a whole, as I try to jump over this tree real fast, there, nonfiction sort of as a whole is definitely, I think, an undervalued genre, just sort of in general, especially on BookTube. And I think the kind of maybe not subgenre, but the style of like comedic nonfiction, you know, making it obviously like funny and everything, is sort of a way of doing that's even more undervalued. Especially because I think a lot of like nonfiction readers don't take it as seriously or something like that. I've come across a couple times, and I definitely think that's kind of like unfair and definitely not warranted. I think personally, comedic nonfiction or humorous nonfiction is a great way to sort of get started in the nonfiction genre, or a topic of nonfiction that you'd like to read, especially for those who do not read nonfiction on a regular basis, or have never tried to, but they like want to. Whether, you know, they want to start reading about, I don't know, just for example, like what I read, like history and like the life sciences, like animals and nature and everything. I definitely find that reading sort of taking a humorous approach to it, especially in the beginning, it's definitely, I guess, not easier to comprehend, but easier to digest. It's definitely more approachable. It's just kind of a fun time doing it. And because of that, I think it's just a good way to get started with the genre. And it's a good way to sort of try something different. Like I said, especially if you're wanting to start reading about some topics in nonfiction, or just trying nonfiction in general, reading something that actually makes you laugh, you know, every few pages, definitely can't hurt, I don't think. And nonfiction sometimes definitely has sort of the capability of being intimidating, especially with super dry, like monograph style academic works. I've read a couple of those in my day, and yeah, the super technical boring stuff definitely isn't fun, generally speaking. Definitely not as enjoyable to read. And of course, if something's not really enjoyable to read, and you're just sort of trying to read, you know, for enjoyment or for fun or whatever, you know, why bother? That doesn't really make any sense. So I just think people should definitely try some comedic or humorous nonfiction, just to kind of branch out and try something a little bit different every now and then. if you want to. Just because, like I said, I've been asked several times about, what do you recommend for this topic or this subject or whatever in nonfiction. And generally, especially like lately, what I've been trying to do is give them a recommendation that has some humor to it, especially. And I think it just works better for those who are wary of sort of starting down that path of nonfiction, especially if you've only ever read fiction works in the past. So actually, there's a nice tree right here lying down. I don't know if it'll hold me, but I might sit down here. If it'll, yeah, it'll hold my weight, definitely. Actually, I might keep this one as like a good little bench. Anyway, look at that, that's pretty cool. Yeah, hopefully I don't fall like in the middle of the video or something. That'd be kind of embarrassing, but anyways. I don't know. Let's just see. Let's go through some recommendations that I would recommend right now, I guess. Some authors I really like for comedic nonfiction. First of all, I would definitely go with Mary Roach. I've read 2 of her works so far, and she has, I think, I want to say 6 or 7 books out now. But I'll tell you the 2 I've read. Her first work, which is Stiff, which is, I can't remember exactly the subtitle, but it's basically all about human cadavers and what happens to people after they die. She deals literally with the science of, what actually happens to your body as it like kind of decomposes and stuff, if it's not, not taken care of, I guess. But also, what happens to unclaimed bodies. What do doctors and stuff, what do they practice on? Crash test dummies, like where do they get their like live, or not live specimens, but their actual human specimens and stuff for the most accurate results, things like that. And she takes kind of this really morbid, macabre like topic and deals with it in a really quirky, humorous way that is still, still respectful, I guess, if that makes sense. Even though she's obviously dealing with kind of a really kind of dark and grim subject matter. But it is really funny, and her other book that I've read is Packing for Mars. I think it's The Curious Science of Life in the Void, which is all about all the silly stuff that has to go behind the scenes for basically astronauts and cosmonauts to live in outer space, whether that was like kind of during the Apollo projects, or the Apollo missions in like the 60s and 70s, or people living on the International Space Station or on the Space Shuttle, things like that. And there's a lot of weird stuff that has to kind of go on behind the scenes. Things you kind of, it sounds silly to ask, but like, for example, like basically people can, like their sweat will like kind of eat through their clothes over time in outer space and stuff. And it's kind of just crazy, weird stuff like that. She just handles really well. And one of her writing styles is, obviously she's talking about all this like kind of humorous stuff in the videos, but she also purposely puts in these like really quirky, weird, silly footnotes that kind of go down like little tangents and rabbit holes related to the information at hand. And I don't know, I just think they're really funny. I'm definitely planning on reading all of her works. She has a couple others. I have one other that I haven't read yet. It's called Bonk, and basically she just takes the topic of sex and goes through all the silly, crazy stuff regarding that issue. So that one's definitely going to be a crazy book, I have a feeling. She has one called Grunt, which is about like military science or technology to make the lives of soldiers like easier, things like that, and kind of the crazy stuff that goes behind that. And then I think she has 1 or 2 others. I think one's called Spook. I'm not exactly sure what that one's about. I think it's about like after, or what do they call those, out of body experiences or something like that. And yeah, there's like 1 or 2 others, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. But that'd be kind of a good one if you're kind of interested in the sciences. A really funny life science book, I think it's the only book she has out, is Lucy Cook's The Truth About Animals. And this is like a hilarious work on biology, dealing with the natural world in the animal kingdom, and dealing with, each chapter deals with a particular species of animal, and it's kind of like the crazy history behind it. Basically, like all the mysteries of like eels is the first chapter, if I remember correctly, because for literally thousands of years, no one knew where eels actually came from. And if you want to know, it's from like this like deep trench out in the Atlantic Ocean. But all these river systems have eels and stuff, and no one could ever figure out where they were, and people couldn't find, you know, the reproductive organs of eels for forever and ever and ever. So everyone was just getting basically confused by that. Oh, and there's a, oh my goodness, I don't know if you can see him. There's a pileated woodpecker way down there. Shoot, I don't know if you could see like some movement down there, but that's pretty sweet. The pileated woodpecker, I think, is the largest extant woodpecker species in the United States. So that is pretty cool. They kind of hang out way in the woods, though. They don't. All the other species of woodpecker in Maine come to our like our suet blocks and feeders and stuff. But anyways, back on track. So yeah, she deals with like kind of crazy stuff like that. Like for example, another chapter is on hippos in South America, and you're gonna be like, Justin, hippos don't live in South America, and you're right. However, Pablo Escobar had basically his menagerie of animals, which included a ton of hippos, and essentially after he fell from power, all his hippos kind of escaped and became somewhat feral in the basically jungle in South America. I can't remember if it was Colombia. Yeah, I think it was Colombia. But anyways, so one of the kind of the history tidbits she's talking about is basically there is a scientist who has to literally go out there and try and castrate the male hippos, which sounds kind of all fun and good, but you really got to think about someone like a team actually going into the jungle, sedating a male hippo, performing like the surgery out in the field and stuff, and getting out of the way before he wakes up and stuff. And it's just crazy stuff like that. She has a great sense of humor and everything, and I just highly encourage you guys to check out that book. What are some other comedic nonfiction? Let's see. For like a political science book, there's Revolution for Dummies by Bassem Youssef, and I thought this one was pretty funny as well. I think I read this one at the end of last year, and essentially he was like the Jon Stewart of Egypt for a little while, and this was during the Arab Spring. Obviously, a very contentious time to be kind of poking fun at the Egyptian government. You know, yeah, it just was not a good thing. But he deals everything basically with a comedic tone and everything. He made friends and enemies with pretty much everyone. So it was kind of funny just seeing his like different interaction stuff, until he kind of just, you know, the powers that be thought he took it a little bit too far, and he basically got labeled like treasonous or something like that, and he had to flee Egypt. But yeah, I thought that one was pretty funny. And let's see, there was one more recommendation. Nah. Oh, some of the NetGalley books that I've read have been pretty funny as well. The most recent one being A Florida State of Mind by James Wright. And if you guys have followed the channel, I did grow up for about 10 or 11 years in Florida, so I kind of have a soft spot for Florida. But he basically just takes little vignettes of all kinds of different things of Florida life and tries to kind of explain why Florida is so weird. Like, why is there, you know, the Florida Man Twitter account, basically? Like, how is that possible? You know, why is Florida just intrinsically more weird than all the other states? So I thought that was pretty fun. And like another one was just like the Field Guide to Dumb Birds of North America. That was kind of just like a silly fluff book. I think it was by Matt Crockett, and he has a blog or a website or something kind of on a similar tone or title, where he kind of just makes fun of birds and stuff for acting silly or being jerks or anything like that. But yeah, if you just know where to look, you can definitely find, like, I think, humorous nonfiction books on pretty much every subject. The only one I've really struggled with is history. So if you guys have any recommendations on, like, comedic history books, I mean, I know there are some kind of like there's a lot kind of at the middle school and high school level, like kind of school age comedic books, I guess, on history, but I haven't found too many like adult works of history that are like kind of purposely meant to be on like a humorous slant. So if you guys have any recommendations on that, definitely leave some comments down below. Be glad to definitely check into those actually, and probably pick some up and read them. But yeah, so tell me what you guys think about these kind of literary walk vids, even though I kind of sat for like the past like 10 minutes in this video. But If you have any topic ideas that you'd like to see me talk about while walking in the woods or field or whatever in northern Maine, yeah, definitely leave some comments down below about that as well. I'm definitely open to suggestions. I'm actually kind of like looking for suggestions because I don't want to keep making up stuff if I run out of ideas. So yeah, I definitely I want to keep doing these walks. Like I said, try and do maybe like one a week, something like that. See how that goes. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And always remember, what if you end up reading? Read victoriously.